Tonight, changes to a provincial law aren't going over well at the House, and a local lawyer says they show an outdated view on abuse.
These few pieces of paper have caused quite a stir in the House of Assembly this week.
The other provinces seem to understand that you can be traumatized without having bodily harm.
Why that lawyer says government is letting down survivors.
Housing individuals with complex problems can mean big business for landlords and property managers. Why one St. John's homeowner says that needs to change.
The front door didn't work for almost a month. This tenant was entering and exiting his house through the ground floor window.
I'm Ariana Kelland, and I'll have that story coming up on Here and Now.
The East Coast Trail is open for hikers, but the association responsible for it says it needs money for maintenance. I'm Arlette Lazarenko, and I will bring you that story.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. A leaked draft of changes to a provincial law is sparking outrage both inside and outside the House of Assembly. The Limitations Act has prevented some people from suing government for abuse they suffered as children. But as Ryan Cook reports, lawyers say the amendments still don't help those who have petitioned for change.
A spark of hope was lit in their hearts when we heard that this amendment was coming, and it has been doused like with a tsunami.
Lynn Moore was irate when she saw this leaked copy of changes to the Limitations Act. Changes that do remove time limits for people who were physically abused as children, but are limited to assault causing bodily harm.
The government really missed the boat on what we were looking for here.
Moore represents a man who was abused by his father while under the supervision of the Child Protection System. He says he was abused in three major ways. He had a loaded shotgun held to his head, he was whipped repeatedly with a wire, and he had his head slammed into the floor. Now, only the last of those incidents caused an injury, and so if this law passes as is, that's the only one for which he could be compensated.
His skin didn't break, and the gun didn't go off. So those assaults, while deeply, deeply traumatic, would not meet the definition of bodily harm.
Jack Whalen spent 11 months petitioning the government to change the rules. He estimates he was held in solitary confinement at the Whitburn Boys' Home for 730 days as a teenager in the 70s. When the province agreed to amend the laws, he was hopeful, but these changes won't apply to his case. In a statement, his lawyer, who's also his daughter, says if there is zero tolerance for child abuse, then why are we only drawing the line at physical battery causing bodily harm? I do not see any mention of torture or neglect, nothing about emotional and psychological child abuse. These few pieces of paper have caused quite a stir in the House of Assembly this week. The draft bill was given to MHAs and their staff yesterday morning, and it quickly found its way into my hands. Justice Minister John Hogan wants an investigation into how that happened.
This is very disappointing to me personally, and as Minister of Justice and Public Safety. A lot of work went into preparing this bill. A lot of members on the opposition side spoke about this on numerous occasions in question period and petitions.
The opposition, meanwhile, says it's not a big deal.
I don't think the world is crumbling because of it, Speaker, and at the end of the day, we end up with a great piece of legislation. So what's wrong with that?
Opposition MHAs will have a chance to add their own amendments to the bill before it's passed. We know the NDP are going to ask the government to remove the stipulation for bodily harm and add in psychological abuse. That would give Jack Whalen and Lynn Moore's client a fighting chance at compensation from the province. Ryan Cook, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, meanwhile, the opposition is calling the proposed amendments to that law deeply inadequate. The PCs say any changes should help Jack Whalen, the man who spearheaded the campaign to change legislation. Here now's Mark Quinn has more.
Strong reaction here at the Confederation Building to CBC's story about a proposed amendment to the Limitations Act. Lawyers say the change won't help Jack Whalen make a claim for compensation, something the opposition says is unacceptable.
I think it's outrageous. So, I mean, you got a piece of legislation that they supposedly worked on. We realised Jack Whalen was the driving force behind the legislation, and now only to find out that it's being ready to be debated in the House, and he's not going to be able to pursue any remediation against the province. It's mind-boggling to me.
Petton says it points to why draft legislation should be made public.
We should farm the stuff out to the public, to the legal world, and get this legislation fixed. Because obviously they picked up on this, and maybe I think our own critic, Ms. Ellen Campbell-Attenheimer, also picked up on it as well. And was a lawyer in her own right. So why not? Aren't we looking for the best piece of legislation? And that's my question to government and to Minister Hogan.
The Justice Minister didn't respond to assertions that the proposed change won't help Jack Whalen.
I can't speak to a specific claim.
But he did say he is concerned about a broader issue the leak has raised about the rules governing the House of Assembly.
And then to make any arguments about, well, in this case, who cares if someone has the bill? Well, then what do? Then are we arguing, well, this privilege is more important than that one? And we're on a very slippery slope then. And we're basically saying that rules can be applied ad hoc in the House of Assembly. And that's going to lead to very poor conduct and decisions and amendments and debate in the House of Assembly.
It's still unclear if the proposed change to the Limitations Act will be adopted while the House is sitting this spring. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, more candidate controversy to tell you about in Bay Verte, Green Bay. The Liberal candidate is running to keep the district red despite being a member of the federal Conservative Party. Candidate Owen Burt says he doesn't support Justin Trudeau's leadership, but he does support Premier Andrew Furey's Liberals. When asked today, Furey says Burt's party membership at the federal level doesn't concern him.
The Prime Minister and I don't always agree, whether it's on carbon tax or some other files, equalization, but in particular on carbon tax and the fact that it is not the right instrument at this time. You've seen right here in this room some very public commentary about the difference of the position of myself and the Prime Minister. So while he may not support the Prime Minister, he's supportive of the values and the direction and the vision and the strategy that we have in place for the government that I lead and the future that we want to create for Newfoundland and Labrador.
Meanwhile, the province's Muslim Association says it's contacted law enforcement after receiving a message from someone making false claims against the community. This in the wake of another candidate's campaign controversy. The message is believed to have been provoked by Lynn Paddock's comments at a recent campaign debate. Last week, the PC nominee in Bay Verte, Green Bay said the province should recruit doctors from countries like Germany rather than India and Pakistan, as those doctors often leave for bigger Canadian cities. Paddock has since apologized for what he calls his poor choice of words. The Muslim Association says it was contacted by someone who shared Paddock's earlier sentiment. In a statement today, the group says it wanted to avoid the political debate, but that it's since received a message from someone who supported Paddock's comments. The association goes on to say that more than 7,000 Muslims call Newfoundland and Labrador home, and that many Muslim physicians are teaching at Memorial University and raising generations of young medical professionals. The group says retention is a complex issue, but that some doctors experience racism and Islamophobia, saying, quote, "It's the responsibility of our politicians, elected or not, to engage in meaningful discussions around such complex issues instead of fueling debates that are potentially divisive and offensive." A homeowner in St. John's says the province is hemorrhaging money on housing for vulnerable people, and she's stuck in the middle. Susan Evoy lives in a duplex in downtown St. John's. She says she's sympathetic to her neighbors, but that she's become trapped in her own home. In this next CBC Investigates story, we're sharing her experience and looking into the little-known subsidy program used to house people with complex needs. Ariana Kelland has the details.
For months, this is what Susan Eboy has done before she leaves her home. She checks to see if the coast is clear.
There's been a lot of violence in the house next door. There's been threats to us. Our property has been damaged. Our property has been stolen. The house itself is not in good condition.
Evoy lives in a home attached to a rental property. Since 2020, it's been used to house people with barriers to traditional housing, a system separate from private shelters. That alone, Evoy says, is not the problem.
You need appropriate housing. It's not enough just to put somebody in a house, because now what will happen? What will happen, the person next to me obviously has complex needs, has some mental health issues, and they do deserve to be housed. But for example, this person, the front door didn't work for almost a month.
Evoy estimates she's called the police over 100 times.
If he's having an episode outside, I can't leave the house. If he's wielding an axe inches away from my front door, I can't leave my home.
But the threats are never direct enough. Damage to property unproven, she says, so it all continues.
So if the homeowner is not responsible, and the property manager is not responsible, and CSSD is not responsible, and the Department of Justice is not responsible, and the City of St. John's is limited in what they can do, and the RNC is limited in what they can do, and the tenant is not responsible for their own actions, then who is responsible?
Homes like the one next to Evoy can receive 3 streams of money from income support, Newfoundland and Labrador housing, and NL Health Services mental health and addiction subsidy, which provides the largest chunk of funding. The money goes to private landlords and property managers. When it comes to this house, the property manager, Steve Saunders, was paid $21,000 in the first 9 months of last year, so over $2,300 a month. And that's just for one stream in a trifecta of funding. In that same time frame, the health authority paid Saunders over $350,000 for that home and 29 others, with one renter per address.
Government is hemorrhaging money to house these people without proper supports, without wraparound supports, and I'm trapped in the middle.
At the NDP office, complaints like those are common.
They're going to pay $3,000 a month, and that's just one example. I know several like that. What are you doing to make sure that A, they stay housed? I think if there's a profit motive there, the motive is to maximize the profit.
Landlord and property manager Steve Saunders wouldn't do an interview with CBC News, but he did provide answers to our questions by email. He says he's proud of the work that he's been doing and says more people should rent to individuals with mental health and addictions issues. He takes exception to any comment that his properties aren't up to snuff and says they're checked on 4 times a week minimum and that he has a maintenance crew that does repairs as soon as possible. Saunders says government departments and organizations are doing a good job with what they have.
We are truly a funding source. So our subsidy.
Leslie Brown is the head of community mental health and addictions for NL Health Services in Eastern Newfoundland.
The subsidy program really is the last option. We will make sure that, other communal living opportunities were explored. And if none of those are successful, and the person wants to live in a particular rental situation, then that's where our subsidy kicks in.
A subsidy without real oversight of who is renting the properties out or what condition they're in, aside from case managers who deal with tenants on a number of issues.
Our housing program is certainly not perfect, and there's a lot of work that we need to do to make sure that this significant amount of money that we're spending is being spent in the best possible way.
Brown says a working group has been formed to look into the issue. Ariana Kelland, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, the head of the Canadian Home Building Association says a lot of work is needed to meet housing targets. A recent report from the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation estimates about 60,000 new homes will be needed in the province by 2030, and that's on top of the houses already being built here. But meeting those targets comes with a lot of challenges like land development and labor shortages.
We have to start addressing so many issues that we have. So there are issues around the development process. When we're seeing new funding coming in, be it provincial or federal, we're seeing different challenges attached to those different sources of funding. We're having issues with labor. Where are we going to find these people to build these homes? If we need to build 3 times more homes, 4 times more homes in the next 6 years, where are we going to find that 3-4 times more labor to help us build those homes? So we have such big challenges right now ahead of us.
Well, another striking video from the crew at JRCC. Another striking video from the crew at JRCC, that's the Air and Marine Search and Rescue Center. This was taken on Saturday when crews airlifted someone off a fishing vessel 80 nautical miles east of Newfoundland. From there, the patient was transported to hospital.
Warrior Elite Kickboxing sent a number of athletes to the national championship recently in Niagara, and the athletes did quite well. I'm Jeremy Eaton, and I'll tell you that story coming up on Here and Now.
Well, temperatures today have dropped a little bit depending on where you are. I got a bit of a cold front moving through, and that's changing the winds. The northerly winds will be back as we head through tomorrow. So we've got a couple of areas of low pressure, but like I said, that front sweeping through is bringing some of that colder air to the south. We've definitely got some chilly air up across portions of Labrador at the moment too. But this is where we're sitting right now. So we've got some showers that rolled through a little earlier, dry now, but 6 degrees. So that temperature certainly dropped. Northeasterly winds, that is the case. But this afternoon topped out at about 13 degrees, really quite mild through the overnight as well. We're down to 6 degrees. And like I said, there's that wind shift. So westerlies for most of the afternoon today. And now we are seeing those northeasterly winds. As far as those showers are concerned, they're moving through fairly quickly. We may see them linger for a little bit longer tonight for eastern areas of the island, but we've got some cold air up across Labrador. The chance of some snow over the next couple of days. I'll get into all the forecast details coming up.
The sport of kickboxing is on the rise in Newfoundland and Labrador, and this gym in Paradise is a prime example. Late last month, they sent 10 of their athletes to the national championships in Ontario, and a number of them did extremely well. Now, if this is something that you didn't know about, let me tell you.
We had 10 athletes that competed in 14 events, and they came back with 4 national titles, 5 silver and 5 bronze. We've done this now probably for the last 3 or 4 years, and every year we're growing. We went from 1 person going to 3 people to 5 or 6 last year, and now there's 10 this year. It's growing into being a really big sport here in Newfoundland. There are multiple clubs here, some in Mount Pearl, myself here in Paradise. We all fall under one organization for kickboxing. We all do compete under that umbrella, mainly on the mainland. We're working on our PSOs with the government right now to try to get that moving so we can start holding some big events here. It's a great feeling. A lot of these are young teenagers. We actually have probably one of the largest female groups in the province for kickboxing.
It gives me more confidence than I've ever had, and I just kind of like being like around the people, and it's a lot of excitement and stuff. So I like that.
You get in the flow, and you're like, you don't think about anything. It's just fun.
I feel like I can use all of my art. I grew up always trying to do MMA and trying to be a mixed martial artist, and I felt with kickboxing I had a way to form my boxing, my karate, my Muay Thai all into one, and I loved it.
This year we have 5 of our students going to Budapest in late August to fight in a world event.
So this will be my 2nd world championship, so it'll be my last junior worlds, and then the next will be seniors. So hopefully, well, last year I only had 1 fight because there was only 1 girl in my division. So hopefully, I'm hoping to have more fights and more to win up there.
It'll register when I get there. Like, I'm just like, oh, cool, worlds. But it's going to be crazy.
I'm going to go up there and I'm going to represent the province of Newfoundland and the country of Canada, and we're going to go give them hell up there.
Added oh, sorry about that. Well, in other news, the East Coast Trail is celebrating 30 years. That's 3 decades of getting hikers through the wilderness of the Avalon Peninsula. But maintaining the trail is not easy or cheap. The association responsible says it's desperate for funds to keep up with maintenance. The CBC's Arlette Lazarenko has that story.
The East Coast Trail, 300 plus kilometers along the coast. For some, it's a bucket list hike.
I mean, one of our goals coming to Newfoundland was to spend a lot of time hiking, and we have. And yeah, it has not disappointed. It's been incredible.
This is the trail's 30th anniversary, a big birthday, but facing a big reality. The president of the Trails Association says to keep the trail open, it is an urgent need of funding.
It's been an increase in the number of hikers on the trail over the last couple of years, severe weather conditions, and an aging infrastructure. The three combine basically to sort of end up with a number of sites along the trail that are in desperate need basically of maintenance and repair. And it's not widespread, but it's enough to be significant that it needs our immediate attention.
There are volunteers, but most of the heavy-duty work is from paid workers.
What we're seeing, and hikers are seeing in the last year or two, basically, is a more frequent encounter with basically broken and rotting boards, muddy and boggy patches, and overgrown sections of trail. So we have I think we have over the full 336 kilometers of trail, we probably have about 15 to 19,000 structures that have to be looked after.
All that work requires money. Money they hope will come from donations.
And what we're trying to do with this, with our fundraising this year, is to reach out to the community, basically to ask them to support us and donate, come out, basically participate in our fundraising events, and help us raise the money we need to have a good maintenance program starting next year.
But besides giving folks a place to hike over the weekend, what's the importance of the trail? Murphy says 2 reasons. 1, the attraction to tourists. And those tourists bring more business.
Yeah, we're a big promoter of the trail because it starts down there at the Mallard Cottage. So we actually had those folks over at our place yesterday, talking about it with our team, so that they could tell all the visitors that come here all about it.
In the worst case scenario, if a trail isn't maintained enough, Murphy says that will mean fewer kilometers of the East Coast Trail for people to enjoy. The association needs at least $300,000 to maintain these trails every year. Now in a coming fundraiser, they're trying to raise half of it at least. Arlette Lazarenko, CBC News, St. John's.
During the First World War, more than 1,700 Newfoundlanders were killed. 800 of them have no known grave.
One of those regiment soldiers is being brought home on Friday. Heather Gillis will have more on the plan for the unknown soldier. That's still to come.
Well, some showers rolling through the eastern portion of the island at the moment. But yeah, we have some snow on the way for parts of the province, maybe even for the northern peninsula. We'll get into all the details in a few minutes.
This weather update is brought to you by the Healthcare Foundation Home Lottery. The absolute final deadline is midnight Friday, June 7th. Order tickets now at hcfhomelottery.ca.
Ashley, I was enjoying those double-digit temperatures today. It was very nice.
Yeah, not as warm as yesterday just because we saw some sunshine, but I'll take it.
Yep, me
we'll
too.
definitely take the temperatures. We topped out at about 14 degrees here in St. John's. Let's take a look at those numbers out there. You know, the warmest temperatures today, Marystown at 19 degrees. And Deer Lake topped out at about 17 this afternoon. So definitely some nice weather out there. Single digits though for the Northern Peninsula. Southern Avalon too. Argentia picked up or saw a temperature near 6 degrees today, and coastal areas of Labrador still into the single digits as well. Makovic at 3 this afternoon. Taking a look at what's going on right now, lots of cloud cover up across the Big Land. Most of the island saw some cloud cover today. Things clearing out a little bit in behind that cold front that's sweeping through. You could really see that on the radar there. With those showers associated with that cold front. In behind that, unfortunately, we do have some much colder air. But those showers are moving through, like I said, fairly quickly, and they should end over, at least a chance, should end over the next couple of hours. But our temperatures right now, you can really see that drop down to 6 degrees in Gander. Same thing for St. John's. Terra Nova sitting at 10 at the moment, but we are going to see those temperatures drop, and they're certainly going to do that as we head through tonight. So like I said, over the next couple of hours, the chance of showers should end. However, we still are in that onshore flow, so we could see some patchy drizzle and some fog patches develop tonight. Still looking at the chance of some flurries, maybe, or showers towards coastal areas of Labrador. Other than that, it is going to be a quiet night, just some showers moving back in as we head towards the morning hours for Lab City. And overall, temperatures will be hovering around the 0 degree mark in and around Cartwright, anywhere from 2 to 4 degrees across the island. A little warmer though, away from that onshore flow. Port aux Basques, Marystown around 6 or 7 degrees overnight tonight. And then as we head into tomorrow, first half of the day starts beautiful for the west coast, most of the south coast, but because we're in onshore flow, that cloud cover will likely stick around at least through the first half of the day. Along the northeast coast, I do think as we head towards the afternoon, we may see some breaks in that cloud cover, especially for the Avalon, maybe parts of the Bonavista Peninsula rather. But as we head through the day up across the Big Land, this system will move through. It's going to bring some showers, potentially some snow, and some showers as the day goes on for the west coast as well. Your clouds will be on the increase as the day rolls through. And then through central and eastern portions of the island, we will see that rain arrive later in the day and through the overnight period. But do you see that blue showing up? Parts of the Northern Peninsula, maybe scraping areas like Bonavista North. You may pick up some snow through the overnight. It won't be much, but you may see a few flurries. And we're going to see that really up across Labrador as well, especially in the overnight and through to Friday morning. So it isn't going to be significant as far as snow is concerned. Most of the snow will fall where no one lives. However, you could see a trace, maybe 2 centimeters, pockets of maybe a tad higher than that. And I think that that will be found in the higher elevations as we head into Friday. Temperatures tomorrow should hover between 10 and 11 degrees. Again, those northerly winds, a little brisk, about 20 to 30 kilometers per hour. And again, we'll likely see some peaks of sun. So we'll feel fairly nice. Twilling Gate topping out at 3 degrees. And again, onshore flow, we can thank for that anywhere from 11 to 15 from Gander through to Harbour Breton. As you head towards the west coast, though, that's where the nicest temperatures will be. You're looking at southeasterly winds, 20 to 30 kilometers per hour, but we're talking about 12 to maybe 18 degrees through the day. Burgeo a little cooler than that, sitting around 9. Northern Peninsula, southeastern Labrador, 4 to 6 degrees, winds generally light, 10 to 15 kilometers per hour. And then this is where we will see that chance of showers. And again, the overnight is when we'll likely see the flurries in the mix, because your daytime high is still pretty mild, 8 to 10 degrees. So the temperatures have to drop before you start to see some of that snow. But we will talk about the long range forecast when I come back in a little bit.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, after more than 100 years, a soldier killed during the First World War is being brought home. The member of the Royal Newfoundland Regiment will soon touch down on home soil after decades in northern France. Here Now's Heather Gillis has more on what will become of the unknown soldier.
The construction work and refurbishment of the National War Memorial is still happening, but this is where it's all going to culminate on July 1st. The unknown soldier will be interred at a tomb of granite and labradorite with a full military funeral before the Memorial Day ceremony begins. During the First World War, more than 1,700 Newfoundlanders were killed. Of course, that includes people from the Royal Newfoundland Regiment, the Newfoundland Royal Naval Reserve, the Forestry Corps, the Mercantile Marine, and even nursing assistants. 800 of them have no known grave. The unknown soldier will represent them all. He'll represent Newfoundlanders who died in France, Belgium, the United Kingdom, and Turkey on the Gallipoli Peninsula. Because of the relatively small number of unknown graves, officials say the soldier's identity can never become known. There is an unknown soldier in Ottawa, repatriated from Vimy Ridge in 2000. But the Royal Canadian Legion Newfoundland and Labrador Command didn't feel that that soldier reflected this province's sacrifice or its unique history. In fact, this war memorial predates the one in Ottawa by 15 years, unveiled in 1924, when this place was still a dominion of the British Empire. The Newfoundland unknown soldier will begin his journey from a cemetery in northern France this week, where he's likely been laying for more than 100 years. Military and government officials will travel to France on Wednesday and lay wreaths on Thursday at two memorials on the Trail of the Caribou, including Montchy-le-Preux. Friday, ceremonies at Goudencourt and at Beaumont Hamel, then an evening reception for dignitaries. Finally, the transfer ceremony happens on Saturday at 11 in the morning, French time. The French military will officially transfer the body of the unknown soldier to Newfoundland pallbearers. Because the identity of the soldier isn't known, Premier Andrew Furey becomes his next of kin. There will be a ceremony loading the fallen soldier into a Canadian airplane, where he'll be flown back to St. John's. Once back on Newfoundland soil for the first time in over a century, the public will be invited to line the streets as the unknown soldier is paraded past places he likely once visited. Pleasantville, where the regiment trained, the CLB Armory, where so many men signed up for the war, and then finally here, St. John's Harbour, the last place where the men stepped foot on Newfoundland soil. Then, finally, the unknown soldier will lie in state here at the Confederation Building for 3 days from June 28th to the 30th before being transferred to the National War Memorial on July 1st, his eternal resting place. Heather Gillis, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, gardening season has finally begun. It's my favorite time of the year, and tonight we're launching a new series with tips for gardening newcomers and old hands alike. We're calling it Get Growing. We'll have a new segment every other Wednesday, and this week we start with the basics, how to get your seeds sprouted for summer planting. Here's some expert advice on how to do it right.
Hi, my name is Tim Walsh, and I'm here at the Munn Botanical Garden Nursery.
All right, Tim, it is the start of the season. What do people need to know to get growing?
Oftentimes we want to plant some seed, and it's a perfect time to be starting those seeds now. Some of the things like tomatoes and broccolis and cauliflowers, things that you want to put out into your vegetable garden, it's a really great idea to start those indoors first because it gives them a bit of a jump on the season.
So where do you begin?
So obviously we're going to need seeds. So I'm going to pour a couple of these out onto your hand. There we go. So we need to get those growing. So now it's about soil, and it's about pots, and it's about water and light and heat. That's what the seeds need in order to grow. And so we can actually have like a nursery pot like I've got here. This has probably been used 50 or 60 times. We never throw out a plastic pot until it's cracked and it's broken.
Yeah.
You don't need pots, however. You can go in maybe a little takeout container from a restaurant. And
These days there are so many of these around, and
right?
it's a great way to reuse it.
Absolutely. So I've punched a few holes in there, and they just basically cracked a little bit and created these openings, but that's fine.
And you have to have that drainage in there.
Have to, yeah. When we water this container, just like the pot, there has to be holes in the bottom of the pot to allow that excess moisture to come out.
So how do you get one of your pots going?
Yeah, so let's sow some seeds.
Yes.
So we're just going to fill those pots. So literally just get your hands in there and feel that soil.
And how many seeds would you put in one of these?
You can overdo it a little bit because the one thing about seeds is that they don't all germinate. But
And you're just laying them right on top?
Just laying them right on the surface for now. We're going to cover them in a minute. And now we're going to cover those seeds very gently. So we're not going to bury it super deep. Tiny little seeds they have to push up through. And there we have it. Now they're covered. And then with the back of your fingers, just gently, we're not packing it down really hard because we really want those seeds to be easily push up through that soil once it germinates. And now we're going to label it. So, you know, I made a mistake many times of, oh, I'll remember what that is.
I've done that before
Right?
too.
Yeah. And this is good information, not just the name, because you're also going to put on today's date.
Oh.
Right? So that next year, when you're growing tomatoes, or the next time, then you use that time to perfectly time your seeding to your growing.
Oh,
so
that's a great idea. That's a great tip.
And then you stick that in there. Look at that. You've just sown some seeds.
Yes.
So we're going to gently water it, and then we're going to put it somewhere where it's kept warm. Now at home, mostly that's going to be a window ledge. So the idea is to give this plant as much light as possible. And then eventually we're going to look probably a little bit like this.
Okay.
And so what we've got here are some seeds that I started a few weeks ago. And so this is a tomato right here.
All right, so that's what this is going to grow into.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. And so here's our tomato babies right here. And we're actually going to take them out because they're germinated, they're growing really well, they're looking good. Look at that.
Beautiful.
Aren't they lovely? But in order for those plants to do well, they really have to be separated.
Okay.
And so you can actually do it by the leaves. Just hold on to the leaves.
Like here?
Just right here, and this one here, and just pull them to either side. You can do it. Look at that.
Go.
All right.
Nice and gentle.
Beautiful. So let's
Fill
put
this
some
up?
soil in there, yeah. And we're going to go about maybe half full, probably. Yeah. And then we're simply going to just put that right in the middle, and then we're going to bury soil all around that. So we can do that together. And now it's ready to roll.
Beautiful.
A lot of people will not have a greenhouse, maybe not even have a garden, and will want to grow these in a container just out on the back deck.
Yeah, you really don't need a lot of space.
You don't,
Yeah.
no. Now this tomato here, this is not its final resting place either, because tomatoes are big plants. I've got right here the one that I started a little bit of a while ago. Same variety. This is actually called Tiny Tim, and if you look, You'll actually see there's
Tomatoes
actually
going
tomatoes there
already.
already. And depending on what you want to do, a lot of people like to grow a pot with a variety of different things in it. So if you're interested in like growing a food pot, let's say, if you don't have a lot of space, that's great because you can have maybe a slightly larger pot and have a tomato, maybe a basil plant,
Ooh, nice.
maybe a lettuce, some savory or thyme or some other herbs that will go well with your tomatoes. It's like the full meal deal there, grown in the one pot.
All right, Tim, we're good to grow?
We are good to grow. You know, everything that we just did, you can apply that to a wide variety of different plants, seeds, pots, soils, you know, just follow those principles and you're bound to have good success.
All right, can't wait to taste these tomatoes.
Oh, you're gonna love it.
Hey Newfoundland, we're ready to break the ice. Berg! Coming to St. John's for 2 shows in June, it's the Debaters! The Debaters will be at the Holy Heart Theatre on June 17th and 18th with Facts and Funny. For details, visit cbc.ca/The Debaters.
More than 3,500 prints have been created at St. Michael's Print Shop since it opened in 1974. The artist-run studio has been operating for 50 years in St. John's, hosting hundreds of visual artists and community workshops. As you're about to hear, the team behind the studio says for anyone interested in printing, there's no experience necessary.
We are actually in a historic sail loft in downtown St. John's, and we moved here from St. Michael's in the 80s, and we're an artist-run print shop. We have workshops, we do free events, exhibitions, and then we have a visiting artist program. Part of printmaking that is so interesting for me, and part of why I moved away from screen printing, the material just kind of defines what the end image is going to look like. You know, you can't really, if you carve too much, you can't really put it back. And the wood just defines how you're going to cut. It sort of transforms the drawing. So whereas I might have a drawing on paper, and then when I translate it to printmaking, it's so different. It's sort of defined by the process. And I really like that, and I think it's really cool. I also think it gives people an entrance if they're like, I'm not good at drawing, I'm not good at painting. It's like, come to a print, because it totally transforms in the process and you end up with something, I think, way cooler than what you started with. We keep an archive of one print from every edition that was ever printed here in St. Michael's. So every artist that works here donates two. One goes to our sales collection, and that helps to fund the shop. And then the second goes to our archive. So we have over 3,000 prints. Well, we have these big exhibitions, and then we also just want to welcome as many people into the shop as possible. Sometimes it feels like people don't know about St. Michael's Print Shop, even though we've been here for 50 years. Also because people maybe aren't familiar with printmaking, and they think, oh, it's a print shop, I can't go there. But yeah, we really want to encourage people to come by, stop by. We often have exhibitions in our gallery, so you can just pop by and see. And then obviously come to our events. All of our events are free.
Ireland, Norway, and Spain plan to officially recognize a Palestinian state next week. All three countries say it's a critical step toward achieving a two-state solution. Irish Prime Minister Simon Harris says the struggle for statehood is something that resonates to this day in his country.
It is a statement of unequivocal support for a two-state solution, the only credible path to peace and security for Israel, for Palestine, and for their peoples.
Israel denounced the decision and is recalling its ambassadors from those three countries. The White House was also quick to react. A spokesperson said while U.S. President Joe Biden supports a two-state solution, he believes it should be achieved through negotiation. Palestinian officials say it's an affirmation of their decades-long quest for statehood. Wicked weather is storming across the U.S. Midwest. High winds, heavy rains, and tornadoes have left a trail of destruction stretching from Oklahoma to Minnesota. More than 20 tornadoes have been reported across Iowa, Wisconsin, and Minnesota. Witnesses say a monster twister hit the town of Greenfield, Iowa. Baseball-sized hail has been reported in Oklahoma, and more than 30 centimeters of rain caused flash flooding in Nebraska. The storm system is moving south and east, threatening a swath of the U.S. from Texas to New York. Shifting now to sports. In the run-up to this summer's Olympics in Paris, toy maker Mattel is fielding a whole new team of Barbies. Among the 9 outstanding female athletes being honored with their own doll is Canadian soccer ace Christine Sinclair. The former captain of Canada's women's team is the world's all-time top international scorer. Mattel says it's hoping to foster self-confidence, ambition, and empowerment. Other athletes on Team Barbie include tennis star Venus Williams, French boxer Estelle Mosley, and Spanish para-triathlete Susana Rodriguez.
Bonus.
Okay, so we're getting closer and closer to the weekend and get to look at the forecast for the weekend now. How is it looking if someone wants to putter around their garden, for example?
You can certainly putter around the garden. You might get a bit wet though.
Okay. Put on your boots.
Yeah, that's okay. It's not going to be too bad for sure. But it's definitely going to be a wet Friday. Let's take a look at what's going on. So as we head into Thursday evening, we're going to see those showers roll through. They're going to spread across the island as we head into Friday morning. And I did say that there's a chance of some wet snow in the mix there. I do think it'll be for the northern peninsula, potentially, but really coastal areas of Labrador. We'll see that snow through Friday morning, and that will move through fairly quickly. And then as far as the island is concerned, the showers will stick around for most of the day, but we do have that onshore flow, easterly flow continuing. So that means that although it's going to be rainy, we are going to see those cooler temperatures, 8 to 9 degrees through the day, 10 to 12 for Grand Falls, Windsor through to Corner Brook, and then along the south coast as well. And then single digits, the story for Labrador and southeastern portions of the Big Land, about 10 degrees for Happy Valley, Goose Bay. But again, the potential for some snow up across Nain again, as your temperature only hovers around 2 degrees through the afternoon. Now into Saturday, this area of low pressure is still sticking around. It's going to be our weather maker for a few days. We are still going to see the chance of some showers through most of Saturday, and the potential for snow again, likely in the overnight as our temperatures drop up across Labrador, but it is still going to be unsettled. We may see a bit of clearing late day for the Avalon, just depending on where this area of low pressure ultimately sets up. And temperatures will likely be sitting around 14 degrees. Now, central, northeastern portions of the island will also be in the single digits. And then about 10 degrees for Corner Brook through the afternoon. So Saturday, still wet. But temperatures really not moving a whole lot up across the Big Land either. Single digits, anywhere from 2 to 8 degrees through the afternoon. Now, the drop in temperatures will come again on Sunday for St. John's in eastern Newfoundland, and it is going to be unsettled right through the weekend. Monday, looks like we should see some clearing, or may see some clearing, with the temperature back up to about 10 degrees. But I don't really see any significant warm up over the next little bit, but just keep an eye on the forecast. It eventually will come. But Friday, Saturday, and Sunday looking rainy for central Newfoundland as well. Some sunshine returning on Monday with a temperature near 17 degrees. Similar forecast for western Newfoundland. A little bit less rain on Sunday though for you. And up across Labrador, you're looking at, after a couple days of rain, Sunday, Monday looking nice, and temperatures warming up again. However, in Lab West, this will stay a little bit unsettled. At least the snow potential will end, but you're looking at temperatures between 13 to 15 degrees. Beautiful shot here.
Oh, look at the blue.
Blue sky, blue water. This is a sunny day in Seals Cove on the south coast. Wesley shared this shot with me on my Facebook page, actually. Great photo there. I appreciate that so much. Definitely want to hang out on that beach one day.
Yeah. Oh, love to have the dogs down there for a run.
They'd enjoy that for sure. If you'd like to share any weather photos, send them to Facebook or email them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Thank you so much for that, Wesley. Really appreciate that. And that's it for us on this evening. Thank you so much for spending part of your night with us. Hope you can join us again tomorrow.
Good night.